Hello, everyone, and welcome to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Lankowski. I am the founder of Milestone Franchising, and I'm a certified franchise consultant representing hundreds of franchise concepts. And Franchise Focus is all about shining a spotlight on the franchise industry. And from time to time, we've got professional services that specialize in that franchise industry. And today, coming to us from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, we have Lori Karpman. Lori is the CEO of Lori Karpman and Company. Welcome, Lori.
Welcome. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Lori, after we've been talking and networking and helping each other with business, it's great to have you finally on Franchise Focus. So thank you so much. We're going to dive right in and we're going to chat about the fact that I always, when I introduce you to people, I say that you are a self-described recovered attorney. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I call myself a recovering attorney because I practiced for 34 years. And, practicing as an attorney is often very confrontational, whereas consulting is not. So, and I'm happy to be out of that so I don't have to deal with that anymore. And, the work that I do now, the legal work that I do now is contractual, and it's where people want to make deals and get together. And so it's much more enjoyable.
Wonderful. And what grabbed you? What was the bug that grabbed you for the franchise space?
I fell into it. It's like a lot of things in life, you sort of fall into it. And I was practicing as a tax lawyer, and I got called from a friend of mine who was the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar business. And they owned 3 different chains of restaurants, all of which were franchised. So I went to work for them for about 10 years. And during that time, I learned everything there really was to know about franchising, about the marketing, the operations, the HR, the financial, the legal aspect. So I really, used that as a school. And then I took that knowledge and I founded a chain of restaurants, which I franchised and then I sold. So I'd been at that point been spending about, I'd been in franchising for about 15 years. And, I'd sold my business and it was like, well, what am I going to do now that I'm grown up? And I realized that my background and what I really knew was franchising. And so franchising consulting became the right career for me, and been doing it for over 25 years now.
So much that you just simply glossed over, that you started a chain of restaurants. And it's funny because both of us really do not go near food, so that's actually pretty funny.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, right? We were both in the food space. So how did you come up with that concept? Were you alone? Did you have a partner? How did that work?
Well, really necessity is the mother of invention. So at that time, I had just gotten divorced. I just lost my mother, and I had been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I wasn't able to work for about a year. So I had to decide, well, what am I going to do that's going to allow me to be at home with my kids, because I had, 2 little ones, and I was a single mom. And I looked back at what my career experience was and realized that what I knew was franchising. And I knew all the aspects of franchising. So, I'm not just a franchise lawyer. I've been a master franchisee. I've been a franchisor twice. And so I was able to take all that knowledge and create my firm, which is a full service franchise consulting firm.
Right. And so having that experience, I always say the same thing, I'm on the advisory side for people that want to get into franchising. You are on the advisory side for people that want to franchise their concept, right? And same thing, I fell into franchising. It wasn't something that I was looking for. And then you take all of that experience and that knowledge and mistakes that you watch others make and mistakes that we ourselves make, right? And then we put it into our consultancy practice. So the fact that you were a master franchisee, that's not something that we talk about too often on this show. Can you explain for the audience what that means?
Sure. So when you're in franchising, there's different ways you can own multiple locations. So one of the ways is through a master franchise agreement. So I was the master franchisee for Pizza Hut for the province of Quebec. So what that meant was that I was able to build the entire franchise brand in the province because I own the rights to the province as a master franchisee. I had the right to sell franchises. So in that case, we developed about 42 locations. We did them corporately, and we developed about 42 locations.
Wow.
So you can be a master franchisee where you buy the rights to a territory and then you develop that territory. Or alternatively, you can have an area development agreement where you have a schedule with the franchisor that says you need to open, let's say, 5 locations in 10 years.
Right, so the people are actually under you, they're sub-franchisees under you.
Correct.
You're responsible for their training and for getting them up and running, right? So instead of
Yep.
them going right to all the way to corporate, they're going to you, so it's a sub-level within that space. And it's not something, again, that we talk about too often, and you've got that area developer, like some people use the word area developer or the master franchise concept, and really you need franchise experience if you're going to be trying to get into that realm. If you've never opened up a franchise before, you don't want to jump right into that master franchise space, but it worked out well for you. You were able to build that out, and again, all of that experience just sat there and lent itself for your advisory practice. So
Yeah.
you develop franchises, and you've been doing this for 20 years-ish, give or take. And I don't know how it's possible because we're both only, 35?
I was just going to say,
So-
I started when I was 6,
yeah.
but
So what was the very first concept that you developed?
The first concept that I developed over 20 years ago was called Liquid Capital, and it was a financing franchise. And I was really excited to be doing that because I knew a lot about financing. That as my first client really gave me a lot of self-confidence because I know how the financing industry works. So I was really able to help them to put their franchise program together. So when we talk about franchise development, we're looking at about 5 different areas. So we're looking at the legals, we're looking at financials, we're looking at operations, we're looking at sales, and we're looking at HR. So those are all of the areas that we cover in-house. So when a brand comes to us and they want to develop their franchise, they don't need to go to anybody else. We are completely full service, and every brand that comes to us deals with me personally.
Wonderful. And it's a question that I get sometimes daily, if not weekly, of, well, tell me about this whole developing the franchise. How does that happen? And how do you, someone gets that itch. They've got a business and it's doing well, and inevitably someone asks, is this a franchise, or have you thought about franchising it? And, and I have a long conversation with people about what that entails and what it means. And not everyone is ready. You've got to have your systems and procedures in place, like that's critical. And a lot of people, like it's written on the back of a cocktail napkin. You really
that
have
just
to have,
doesn't work.
right? It has to be already really, so that if you are no longer in the business, someone can come in and take that business right over, because that's the idea of franchising. So
Correct.
how did you know? How did you find this client, and how did you know that they were ready to become franchised?
Actually, they found me. Someone, when I, after I was sick and I came back and I went into the consulting, I sent out notices to all my contacts in the franchise industry saying, this is what I'm doing and I'm consulting now. And so people started referring business to me, which was really cool. And so they found me. And I knew they were ready to franchise because they really had all their systems and procedures in place. And that's the key. You have to have a business that someone else can replicate. And they were really ready because they had already 3 very successful locations with franchisees that were exceptionally profitable. And it was a really super easy business model for someone to be able to come in and take over. And so, that's what attracted me to that. Because I knew they had something to offer that wasn't currently being offered on the market.
And I'm going to the attorneys will always say, don't ever ask a question that you don't know the answer to.
Right.
Where would this concept be today, 20 years later, Lori?
Oh, they are extremely successful. They are across Canada, they're across the US, they've gone into some European countries. So it really took off.
Fantastic. And
One of my success stories. So
I'm
I
not
love
familiar
that.
with the concept, and I'm sitting there going, well, let's hear a win for it, and here it is, a win.
Yeah,
And you were
yeah,
responsible for helping this little tiny flame get, going and
yeah.
across not just Canada, but across the United States and other countries, which is, absolutely fantastic. And again, that's the idea behind franchising. It's to scale and it's to grow, and have a footprint not just in your country, but in other countries. All
Correct.
right, so 50% of your time is dedicated to developing franchise concepts, which I don't even know. Maybe you're cloning yourself. What are you doing with that other portion of your time?
With the other portion of my time, I actually have a passion business. Now, don't get me wrong, because franchising is a passion business. I love what I do. I've been in franchising for 40 years. I love what I do. But it requires a team. And I wanted to start sort of looking at a potential retirement plan in 10 or 15 years from now. So what I absolutely love to do, my passion is writing. So I have a professional copywriting practice, and I write any kind of business copy. I do websites and marketing materials and brochures and email drip campaigns and landing pages, any kind of business writing. And it's not limited to the franchise industry. I write. I'm very industry agnostic in terms of the copywriting practice.
Wonderful. So, Lori, we have so much more to chat about, but we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsor, Zoom One Media. So stay tuned, and we're going to come back with Lori Karpman right after this word.
Certified financial planner and host of Financial Planning Explained on RVN TV. Join me as I interview financial industry experts, corporate executives, and business owners as we identify and discuss unique strategies and techniques that you can use to maximize your own financial planning. You make important financial decisions every day, so let us show you creative ways to improve your success. Tune in every Monday at 6 p.m. and Friday at 11:30 a.m. exclusively on RVN TV. And get ready to enhance your financial knowledge.
I love that we both got an awesome network and save money doing it.
I know, $25. I love that it's guaranteed for 3 years.
Hey, we're sitting on a sign here.
Switch and get Welcome Unlimited for $25 a line, guaranteed for 3 years. Verizon.
One thing I know for sure, a woman's journey is not linear. Hi, I'm Ellen Herbert, founder, executive coach, and conversation starter for Her Biz that helps emerging female leaders and individual contributors unleash their potential. So in addition to helping clients develop into strong, successful leaders, one of my favorite things to do is have deep, purposeful conversations with women about their journeys. So join me each week for an amazing conversation where I will introduce you to some really amazing women. You'll get to hear their stories and their defining moments. I'm Ellen Herbert, and I'm about to start a great conversation.
When you stay at a Verbo, you always get the whole home. Not part of it, but the whole upstairs, the whole downstairs, the whole fridge, and the whole secret nap room. Because is it really a vacation home if you have to share the house with the host?
Welcome back to Franchise Focus. I'm your host, Lisa Lankowski, and I have Lori Karpman, who has 40 years of franchise experience. So yeah, very glad to have this guest on with me today. And Lori, I'm going to ask you about this quote. When we had initially spoke, you said that you learned never to give anyone equity.
Yeah.
Can you explain that, please?
Absolutely. I have had 3 partnerships, I've owned several businesses over the course of my career, and I've had 3 of them were partnerships. One of them worked out really well. It was a great partnership. We each understood that, we had our own domains, we're masters of our own domains, and it worked out really well. The other 2 were absolute disasters. And when you break up a partnership, it's like breaking up a marriage, and you've got to divide up the business. And I learned, and someone had said this to me, and I learned this, where now when I have companies and projects, I never give anybody equity. So I am the sole equity shareholder of my businesses. I have great staff. I hire them well. I hire top end people. I pay them top end. They get benefits and bonuses. They're very well treated. So they're treated and they're compensated as if they were partners, but they don't own equity.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because right now, when you've got so many semi-passive concepts out there right now, franchisors are really encouraging, a little bit of sweat equity because the labor market is so difficult out there, and it's something to entice the person to stay and to grow with the company.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
When you're in franchising and you want to entice someone to stay with the company, the thing about franchising is that you look at franchise professionals, and franchising, as you know, Lisa, is a very incestuous industry. People move from brand to brand to brand. For me, it's about developing the relationships, and really, treating people really well. They don't need to have equity. They don't need to be a partner in your business for them to perform as if they were a partner. So as long as you're treating them well and you're compensating them, equity isn't necessarily something that is attractive to people. Not everybody wants equity. Some people just want to be paid well, and they don't want equity, and they don't want to have to worry about splitting the expenses and the admin costs and all that thing. They basically they want to be compensated as a partner and treated like a partner, but they're not necessarily looking for the equity.
Right. Okay. And while we're speaking about money, you had said that we were talking about that one of the most important areas for someone that's looking to franchise their business is having those systems in place, right? Those systems and procedures. But they also have to be profitable. And that profitability is really key. And it can't be, well, I really think that this is going to be profitable. It has to be, this is profitable. What do you look for, and what do you tell people that are looking to franchise their business about that profitability piece?
In order to be able to franchise your business or to work with me, you have to have 2 years of profitability. Because what you really need to be able to show to someone who wants to buy your franchise is that they're going to make money. And if you have 1 year of profitability, that's okay. That could be a fluke. But if you have 2 years of profitability, then at least you're showing proof of concept. And that's what I really need, is I need to be able to show that the concept works, and that, the whole point about franchising is that you're buying a business in a box, is that you pay your money, you get a system, you follow the system, you make money. So, that's what I'm looking to make sure, that there is, in fact, a proper system that people can replicate, so that they can be able to be profitable.
Excellent. And we're going to stay with the money topic, Lori.
Sure.
Your tagline on LinkedIn states, "We grow your business using other people's money."
Yep.
What does that mean?
Well, what most people don't realize is that franchising is a financial decision. So let's say you have, you've got a dry cleaners, and it costs $100,000 per location, for example, and you want to put up 10 locations this year. So as a company, if you want to put up 10 locations at $100,000 each, you need to go to the bank and you need to borrow $1 million. So now you've got $1 million of debt, not to mention the interest. Then you actually have to go and construct and equip and hire and run and manage all of these 10 locations. So you really have to put in a really big infrastructure. The alternative is that you go and you find 10 people that each have $100,000, and you teach them to do what you do. So now you're not going to the bank to borrow $1 million, because you're using other people's money, meaning the prospects, system. So as people are buying franchises, that's the money that's coming in that you're using to build your system. So you don't have to manage 10 locations. You don't have $1 million of debt. You just have whatever it costs to, franchise your business, from start to finish. So those are the only costs that you have, and you can recoup those a lot faster in the franchise fees.
So are we talking again back to that master franchise concept? Is that what you're saying people should be doing?
No, not necessarily. I mean, being a master franchisee is a huge expense and really requires someone that has a lot of experience in business.
Right.
Area development agreements are agreements where you don't have the right to franchise. You have to open all those locations yourself. But franchising in general is building your business using other people's money, because that's where you're getting the capital. So each one of them builds a location. Each one of them manages their team, manages their structure. So that's how that's why franchising is growing your business using other people's money, because you're using the capital that you're getting from the purchase of the franchise to develop your franchise business.
Okay, understood. So from the franchise development side, you're saying that's the beauty of franchising. So when someone decides to be a corporate entity and they're just building scads upon scads upon scads of locations, and they're incurring all of that debt and inventory and whatever else that comes into that, franchising eases that all off of you, because now it's on the franchisee, and now you can focus on just growing the business. All right. So, Lori, I get asked, and I'll bet you anything, you get asked all the time, what are the trends that you're seeing these days?
I'm seeing these days a huge trend in the areas of home services, professional and home services. Anything that has to do with gardening or changing your windows or heating and HVAC repair, roofing. All of these things that you're seeing in the home services are growing. The reason that they're growing is because A, they tend to have a low cost to get in. B, they tend not to require much of a skill set. You have a home office, so the development costs are significantly less. And I look particularly for industries and clients that are recession proof. So, if you have an air conditioning system and your air conditioning system breaks down, you're going to have that fixed. It's pretty much recession proof. If you need your lawn mowed, you're going to have your lawn mowed. So I see a lot of that. Then I see a lot that has to do, obviously, with senior care, because senior care is home, not just care at the home, but it's home meal replacement services, it's nursing services, it's concierge services, and it's not just now for seniors, but you're starting to see all these kind of senior care concierge services for moms that are coming in. So for moms who, need errands run for them, or, who need, their children watched, or they have projects or things they need to do. So we're starting to see a lot of the sort of home care services being extended into other markets, like women who've just had a baby, people, after surgery. So home care is one of the big industries that I see as well.
Yeah, I love the home services space, the trick. And I wonder, when you look at this and you're developing a franchise, how do you mesh out the saturation point, for, let's say, you pointed out HVAC, and how much can the market bear to have X amount of companies out there in that exact same space? Do you look at metrics for that and really study that to understand, yep, we can fit one more HVAC concept in this?
Yeah, I do. I look at a lot of factors. I look at a lot of, demographic and psychographic, factors, particularly geographic factors. So, for example, I have a client now who's in biodegradable cleaning products and services, and what I like about their business is that, again, it's something that can be easily replicated. So it's not just, when we look at it, we have to look at the territory, and you have to say, well, one franchisee, how many homes could they handle? And so they start to divide territories based on population. So if it was a home care franchise, it would be based on the number of homes within a certain area. So the franchisor and I work together to figure out, how many homes can one franchisee actually serve? How many do they need to be profitable? And how much is too much? And then there are agencies. There's a company that I work with, and this is exactly what they do, is geolocation for franchise companies. So they will take a territory for you and you tell them what your parameters are, and they will break down the entire territory. So they'll tell you, well, in the province of Ontario, you could fit 10 locations based on your parameters. So there are companies that actually do the metrics.
Do you ever come to a point with a concept where you turn them down because there is not enough room anymore? There's just too much competition. It's just no mas. There's no more availability anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that it's very saturated for something. I mean, the restaurant industry is just completely saturated, as you know, which is, why I do very little work in food service now, because food service is not a recession-proof industry for the most part because it's brick and mortar.
Right. And you've got that lease, and you've got the labor, and you've got the long hours. Yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother discussion for another time.
Oh my God, Lori. Yes, restaurants, they're a beast in and of themselves.
Oh, we'll have to have another show just to talk about food and franchising. So, Lori, I am thrilled that you were able to come on and give all of your extensive knowledge and experience in an area that is something that, a lot of business owners out there in the audience are thinking about. How do I want to grow my business, and which way do I want to take it? And they come to that tipping point of, do they want to franchise it? Do they want to license it? Do they want to, make it a corporate entity and start running that way? And you're a great person for them to speak to. And yes, you're in Canada, but you work with people in the United States all the time. So
most of my business is in the United States.
Right, it's mostly in the US. So we're going to put your contact information up on the screen so that people can reach out to you and they can have a conversation with you and pick your brain, and maybe we'll see yet another wonderful concept coming out from this. Who knows? Lori, thank you so very much for coming on. Franchise Focus airs every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is Franchise Focus. I'm Lisa Lankowski. I own Milestone Franchising, and you can learn more about me at my website at milestonefranchising.com. Until next time, thanks for watching.